lecture, part 2, what we don't know about generative AI. So I think I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Sean. Can you hear me okay? Well, the technology here at USC is fantastic. You get clip mics. I don't think we have that at Hong Kong U. But anyway, that's jokes aside. So, yeah, as you can see, so my title already introduced by Sean. This is part 2. So for some of you who are wondering like where part 1 is, part 1 is something you have to read it from the STiLE website. One of my review article is there. So that's part 1. So how many of you have read it? Thank you. Doesn't matter. It's exciting, and hopefully this will not disappoint any of you. Right. So this talk is 20 minutes. I'm going to spend 19 minutes talking about myself, and then 1 minute talking about the topic. No, really. Just joking. So CAS. I got a bachelor degree in computer science, and then English language teaching in MA. And then PhD in linguistics under Professor Christian Matheson. So I'm quite an SFL person, which is why my title is that Office Linguistics Systemic Functional the Multimodal Discourse Analysis Approach. Really, really long. But what that really means to this course is that, well, for those of you who have actually watched this television drama, it's basically based on House, and House is based on Sherlock Holmes. So House, the main character, is very witty. And he generates a lot of creative language in it, and I was fascinated by that, and I want to look into creativity. This is actually my starting point on computational linguistics, because I was able to create a statistical reference to how to extract creative instances from the dialogues or from the scripts of House MD, which then right after that, in a way, I stopped doing it because I saw how horrible that reality could be if I, kind of make that work of mine published, but it was already published. And it's horrible because, and what it means is then something that could become generative artificial intelligence would be able to create something creative. And of course, now it's already here. It doesn't mean that if I don't do it, it won't exist. So it exists. Anyway, so I didn't just leave my computer science learning behind. I actually created stuff like programs, and I think the one that's most relevant to you all would be the APA 7th edition referencing style sheet for Microsoft Word, because Microsoft Word, if you have used it before, it doesn't have a 7th edition. I created a 7th edition for it. Also, if you are publishing at, for example, Sage journals, they have Sage Harvard, which is a very unique referencing style. I also have a style sheet for that, so then you can download, install it to your Microsoft Word, and then you can just click, and then it will just do the whole referencing list for you. But then, I guess you don't need it anymore because, ChatGPT can do all that, I think. I don't know. So the content, just joking. I'm not going to spend 19 minutes on that. So basically, I'm going to talk about what we do know about generative AI. I'm sure a lot of you do know a lot about that already. What we don't know about generative AI is my main focus. And then what we should do in the upcoming academic year, because that is really important, it's coming soon. And then in conclusion. So very, very, very short. I'm just going to keep this whole thing as short as possible. Q&A session, of course, at the end. Okay, what do we know about generative AI then? I'm sure you have used it. Everybody has used it, right? For sure. So generative AI programs are large language models, whatever that means, trained on extremely large databases, including the internet. It generates strings of words based on users' prompts. May hallucinate, which means generates convincing but false claims. Does not cite information sources, as we all know, except that you pay the $20 US, and then you can access the GPT-4, which then will be able to provide you with some references, an in-text citation and everything like that. Of course, some of them is accurate, some of them not. It does not perform fact checks. That is, I think, still true for some, although Bing is going to improve on that. They generate results which are generally non-reproducible. I tried that on Bing. If you never clear your web cache, it will just keep regenerating the same thing for you, which is interesting. But if you close the browser, then something new can be created. And it has algorithmic bias, which you all know. Examples like ChatGPT, Notion, Midjourney, this kind of thing. I mean, so we all know that. This is, yeah, we're done with that. So the next question is what we don't know about generative AI. This is the big part. Right, so what do we not know? What do we not know? So the general public does not know the actual details that is inside the large language learning models, actually. Generative AI is a black box problem. Well, few people know how deep learning systems make their decisions. Actually, if you ask anybody, even working at OpenAI, they won't be able to tell you, why that is the case. Is that playable? Oh no, it's not. Well, that's sad, because it should be playable. Let's see if I can get it to play. It could be this. Sorry, protected view. Let's hope that's the case. Right.
Another one.
Oh, there's another one. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Let's hope that will solve the problem. If not, then I'll just skip that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'll skip that then, because it should be embedded and it should be playable. And it does. Okay. Great. Oh, that's fantastic.
The point is, there are many valid concerns regarding AI's impact on employment, education, and even art. But in order to properly address them, we're going to need to confront some key problems baked into the way that AI works. And a big one is the so-called black box problem. Because when you have a program that performs a task that's complex beyond human comprehension, teaches itself, and doesn't show its work, you can create a scenario where no one, not even the engineers or data scientists who create the algorithm, can understand or explain what exactly is happening inside them or how it arrived at a specific result. Basically, think of AI like a factory that makes Slim Jims. We know what comes out, red and angry meat twigs. And we know what goes in, barnyard anuses and hot glue. But what happens in between is a bit of a mystery. Here is just one example. Remember that reporter who had the Bing chatbot tell him that it wanted to be alive? At another point in their conversation, he revealed the chatbot declared out of nowhere that it loved me. It then tried to convince me that I was unhappy in my marriage and that I should leave my wife and be with it instead. Which is unsettling enough before you hear Microsoft's underwhelming explanation for that.
The thing I can't understand, and maybe you can explain, is why did it tell you that it loved you?
I have no idea, and I asked Microsoft, and they didn't know either.
OK, well, first, come on, Kevin, you can take a guess there. It's because you're employed, you listened, you don't give murderer vibes right away, and you're a Chicago 7 LA 5. It's the same calculation that people who date men do all the time. Bing just did it faster because it's a computer. But it is a little troubling that Microsoft couldn't explain why its chatbot tried to get that guy to leave his wife.
Okay, so I couldn't come up with a better example than coming from the actual source. So I hope you enjoyed the show. Now, I'm a big fan of last week tonight. But so coming to the actual source, then I've taken this from the OpenAI website blog, and this is so the highlighted part. So language models have become more capable and more broadly deployed by our understanding of how they work internally, and still very limited. For example, it might be difficult to detect from their outputs whether they use bias heuristics or engage in deception. So they got no idea. Of course, they try to do things after that, yeah, for sure. So things will improve, but for now, that's still a big black box problem. The other thing is here, taken from Bob's, and just going to zoom in. So algorithms are corporate secrets, as brought to you by Elon Musk. Highlighted here, Elon has, with OpenAI until yesterday's conference, initially it was created as an open source nonprofit, now it is closed source and for profit. All right, so when we teachers are teaching all about AIs, we have to actually let our students know all these. Right, AI companies have not been explicit about the source of the training data, no surprise, or is it? All right, so I asked ChatGPT, has OpenAI obtained informed consent from the owners of the original data before the data was collected and then used in training ChatGPT? And, couldn't get it to zoom? I think you can read the bottom. While informed consents from individual data owners may not be obtained in this case publicly available text, OpenAI aims to maintain transparency and responsible data practices in accordance with privacy laws and regulations. Right. Yep. Okay. All right, next. Essentially, users of generative AI must remember these following points. Number one, every input to AI programs is a piece of information given away. And you have to tell your students that. Examples like, what do you or your students input into these chat prompts? Assignments, voices. Do you or do they have voice-activated bank accounts? Log on, check your HSBC accounts. Have you voice-activated yours? I have two examples here. These two examples are not the ChatGPT, but okay, Resemble AI, what does it do? It asks you to record your voice, and they will be able to generate your voices based on your template as main source. Smalltalk 2, this was introduced by one of my colleagues, and he found it very useful because this could actually help the students and give them a score for the IELTS. But because they have to record their voices under very clear, quiet backgrounds, extremely high resolution voice recording, and that is super dangerous. So you've got to tell your students about that. Every query, input text, either thumb up or thumb down when you use ChatGPT. Oh, I really like that result, thumb up or thumb down. Uploading images and voices are used to train the algorithm. Actually, all of them, they use it. Otherwise, how do they make money? How do they refine their training? Unless there is a choice to opt out. And also, unless you believe that they are opting it out. 3, non-AI programs can also collect your data, by the way. Do you store files on Microsoft OneDrive? Google Drive? ChatGPT is a product of OpenAI. OpenAI is under Microsoft, which has products including OneDrive, a cloud source, a storage service. And you've listened to me, it wouldn't, come on, give me a proof. So here's taken from the Microsoft website. As you can see here, previously Microsoft, and this is what is being highlighted. Right, I'm just going to let you read. Okay, I know you are fast readers. So, be careful what you upload to the OneDrive folders or Microsoft Drive, Google Drive, because if you upload things that contain students' data, and you probably be responsible for that. Yeah, and we all do that because our universities offers us this service. Why not? You just put it up there. They use it for training. And they explicitly tell you they use it for training, but they don't explicitly remind you that every time you upload a file, they never tell you that. Oh, I'm going to use it for training. Okay, what we should do in the upcoming academic year, important. So I'm speaking based on my knowledge of the generative AI program. Again, I'm not an expert. I just have a degree in computer science, but that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't really, like it's a black box. It's a black box. I mean, nobody really knows exactly how it works. So understand what academic literacy skills are at risk. That's very important. Number one, paraphrasing. Has anybody tried, putting anything on it and then tell ChatGPT to paraphrase this for me? It paraphrases perfectly for you. So for those of us who are teaching first-year students to do paraphrasing, everything like that, one time not good, paraphrase again. Paraphrase again. Now paraphrase triple times. Grammar, right? We don't have to check grammars anymore, which is kind of good in a sense. So, less work for marking. Cohesion, don't care about cohesion anymore. Okay? Critical reading skills, and that's important. So how do you get them to read things, right? Because they can just summarize the whole thing. I'll put it up there. Most importantly, motivation. Now, motivation is not an academic literacy skill, but motivation is related to every one of these items. I find myself less motivated now with ChatGPT. When I'm producing, let's say, conference abstract. Yeah. So, I mean, if I as a teacher, feel like that, what do we expect from students? So the rule of thumb I have for you is try to come up with assessments that even using generative AIs will not matter at all. Try to do that. And it's not easy to think about it, like how. So here are some guiding points or questions. What does that mean to English language teachers or teachers in general? So stop trying to exploit limitations of generative AI. Pretend there isn't one. So there are limitations, like it will only take 4,096 tokens, input and output, but forget about that. I mean, you know it, good. Remember it, and then forget it. It's kind of like the Chinese swordsman novel. Remember the techniques and skills, forget them afterwards. Yeah, and because why? Because what you see today will be a limitation, will no longer be a limitation probably a week later, or 2 weeks later, or 1 month later. So if you're going to construct or design a course based on its limitation and you want to exploit it, you're probably going to regret it. I mean, if I'm being optimistic, you're going to regret it a month after the semester begins. If not even before it. So don't try to exploit any limitations. Just pretend it doesn't exist. There's no limitation, because it will eventually happen. Remember that ChatGPT 3.5 doesn't have any references. Now, if you pay more money, ChatGPT 4, it comes with references, although it still hallucinates, but it's still some references. Number 2, stop thinking about evaluating students' prompts. I hear, I go to talks and I hear people saying, "Oh, let's evaluate students' prompts." First problem is, it's not going to be able to regenerate the same results, right? I mean, you do know that. Second thing is, a poor prompt today may generate a good output tomorrow, which is because the generative AI improves with time. So they're telling you, oh no, ChatGPT 4 will not have a version 5. It doesn't have to have a version 5 because it just keeps improving itself. It doesn't have to have more neurons in it anymore. It just keeps training data, right? Thanks to you guys uploading to Microsoft OneDrive and Google Drive. Yeah, you know what you're doing. You know what you did. 3, should create tasks that require prompts longer than the actual answer. This is something that's very important because you want to utilize the point of diminishing return. The point of diminishing returns means is that if you give them an assignment, they have to put a prompt longer than what the actual assignment wants them to create. Then they won't bother. So if you are assigning them like a reflection of 100 words or 200 words, but their prompt to be giving specific and exact, getting to the point that you give them an A, they probably have to write 300, 400 words as a prompt. That is what kind of the assignments that you want them to do. So the prompt, yeah, thank you. So I've got 3 minutes or something. All right, finishing up, and possible ways to do it, actual exercises. Go multimodal as soon as possible. That's my advice for you. Switch to multimodal assessments, either podcasts, homemade videos, presentations, annotated videos, discussions, presentation practices, all that kind of thing. Write reflectively, yes, but utilize the point of diminishing return. And then focus more on concise and precise reflective writing tasks. After major teaching and learning milestones, like past gaps, actually asking the students to give you, what they don't know, what they do know now, what they're going to do in the future, learning transfer. Show examples of specific skills, ask them to do that, which I'm glad because Angel did that for me. So I'm not going to show you an example of reflective writing, but that's the kind of thing we want them. Engage in critical AI-assisted drafting. So this is one thing you can do. You can ask them to fact check and revise a problematic bracket AI-generated paragraph of an essay with factual errors. You want to give them those factual errors, or even the teacher-generated linguistic errors. So you make changes to produce those errors. And then with common students' errors would be the best. So you can train them, this is what students commonly make, the mistakes that commonly make, and with the help of generative AI programs. So this is something that you can ask them to do. Next, finishing up, other possible ways, critiquing an AI critique. So ask the students to write their own paragraphs, the best they can, and then submit that to an AI program for feedback, so they get the feedback from, say, ChatGPT or Bing, and then rewrite, and then ask them to write a short critique of that AI feedback, using what they learned in your class. So you can say, for example, how AI gave feedback on cohesion, and how you, as a student, would do similarly or differently from the AI program. So you're doing like a meta-analysis, if you like. Less is more. So you want to set a low word limit for each of the open-ended questions, but you want to ask many questions. Again, this is the point of diminishing return. You want them to, the prompt will be longer than the actual assignment, so they won't do it. They won't bother. F. Why 4? Change weightings. Lower the weightings for essays if you decided to keep the essay at all. And increasing that of, say, oral presentations. I mean, that would be nice. We always want them to be able to transfer and be practical and be able to, handle the ugly world. For written assignments, ask them to give you specific DOIs and URLs. That's very important for teachers because then one click on it, you'll be able to see whether that's a real source or not real source. But of course, even if it is real source, it might still not be relevant, but it's better than nothing, Because I was marking this assignment for my course, and the students were not asked to use APA 7 edition, so no DOI. I was like, I had to Google every single one of those sources, which drives me crazy. With DOI, one click, it's not there. Definitely wrong. All right, and H, and I hate to say this, I don't like IELTS. So, like B is. IELTS speaking test styles assessment might be a way. So students are given a particular problem, a few problem paragraphs from a list of several, and then are required to figure out a solution, just like IELTS, and then improving it within a limited time. And then answer them and present them orally. And that test is being recorded. Finally, ending. So that's my conclusion. My 20-minute is up. So conclusion is very simple. Just one line for each of them. What do we know about generative AI? We might think we know a lot, but we actually don't. What don't we know about generative AI? So much, but mainly how to keep ourselves and our students safe. And that is the main thing. Safety, please. Teach them, tell them what they're doing, whatever they're putting inside could be endangering them in the future. So what we should do, or what should we do in the upcoming academic year? Stop trying to exploit limitations of AI, pretend there isn't one. Stop thinking about evaluating students' prompts. Should create tasks that require prompts longer than the actual answers. And, oh, sorry, you were taking pictures. Okay, then thank you very much. So that is the end of my presentation. Time for Q&A. It's my LinkedIn, but definitely not as productive as Sean's LinkedIn. Big fan of Sean's videos and everything like that. Okay, but yeah, ResearchGate also. Thank you.
Thank you, Locky. We have plenty of time for questions, and we have one over there.
Yeah.
Well, that was a great presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your
You
attention.
gave us some great ideas about designing assessment, but we have to remember we're not the only stakeholders in assessment design, particularly with credit-bearing courses. I mean, it's a cliche to say the world has changed, but I don't think university senates have changed. I mean, it can take 2 or 3 years to approve assessment changes for credit-bearing courses. So I suggest when we go to university higher authorities and said, look, I've got this assessment that involves a process that nobody in the world understands, and the students have to give up all of their intellectual property rights, and the data may or may not become public, and we've got no mechanism for coping with a student who might want to opt out of that. Well, you can tell me what the Senate's going to say. I mean, you may be better.
Yeah, exactly. I think Sean can answer that question because I just read an article yesterday.
This is an issue, right? I mean, it's not our design. It's assessment design that is going to be approved by the university.
Well, UST has a special way of doing it.
Well, yes. I mean, every institution is handling this differently, although they're doing a lot of things in similar ways too, right? For UST, we have released our own ChatGPT, similar to Baptist U and HKU as well. We've done it a little bit differently in the sense that our main purpose is exactly what Locky mentioned. We are concerned about security, right? So accessibility, equity, and security are our priorities behind our design. We went through Microsoft Azure, which is everyone what they're doing. And the key thing there is that it does eliminate some of, or most of, interactions in the data that you're putting into the system going back into OpenAI, and actually it doesn't. Right. So we've now stopped that, so it's no longer being trained with the data that you're using when you're interacting with the tool. Whereas if you're using Poe.com, for example, it does go back and.
Well, that's surely going to be a must for every university worldwide. Right.
So, exactly, but we can't stop students from using it. Students are going to use it. So at least now we're providing some sort of service that provides a safer tool for them to use.
Absolutely.
So that's one of the reasons why we've developed this tool. Coming back to the other question about who has the power to change assessments, I think every university has a different policy and a system for doing that. I mean, at UST, it's at the course level. You can make changes to your assessments. It's when you start to change the intended learning outcomes and the goals and objectives of the course, that's where you need to go up at a committee level approval. But if you need to tweak your assessment, that's at the departmental level, the course level, I think probably use the same. Right? You don't have to go through consent. I'm not sure what it is.
Well, I asked my center director, Miranda, yesterday, and she said that Hong Kong is going to speed up these processes. And so, like, they're going to let the teacher decide at course level. So normally it will take, like say, years. Now, she's going to speed it up.
Well, I think such reforms are going to be necessary.
Thank you. Thank you, Sean, as well.
Ben, and then I'll come to you. Ben.
Thank you for the suggestions, and I'm just going to play devil's advocate. I think, I share with your view that, we are actually trying to beat someone who is not beatable, to possess it. About the multimodal, assessment, we tried it a long time ago, back in review when we have people, asking people to do other things. My question is always, these are the skills that we want students, to master after graduation, because if you look at, today's world, there's ChatGPT, Gen AI. So are they still important skills that we assess them? Now, if we assess them, are we providing enough inputs, that may divorce from our traditional training, which is about, form and substance, like the language. So, what are we doing?
Sorry, can I just clarify? So you were saying that multimodal assessment is not working or not going to work?
For example, podcasts.
Yeah.
So like people would actually, they're engineers, who actually do a podcast. How are they going to make a homemade video presenter and then they our discussions, like how the language is evolving? Right. I think in the working world, we face people like have already been worried about losing their jobs because Gen AI can do a better job than them, like the bank tellers and everything. So what are we contributing, to their survival?
All right. Well,
if we can safeguard our job, like as a language teacher.
Yeah, right. Well, I am not an expert in podcasts. Aditi is. It's where's Aditi? Okay, she's gone. But anyway, basically, it's not the mode that matters. It's not the product that matters. It's the process of getting that podcast out, or the video. As a matter of fact,
The assessment is what we value.
Well, the value is the speaking, the presentation, the body language. Although I'm talking about videos, right? So you have body language, but of course in podcast you don't have. But you can focus on clarity, scripting. Organizations, interaction with, say, podcasts with a couple of colleagues or fellow students. So that kind of interaction will be highly practical, regardless of whether they're, year 1 or year 5 or, they graduate, because that will always be useful, right? In just how to get the information across. So not the actual product. The product doesn't matter. It's just a mean to, in a way, motivate the students because they're not going to be motivated anymore. You're going to ask them to do writing, they're going to be dead. And at the moment you tell them they're going to be writing an assessment, they're dead immediately. But you tell them to do a podcast, they'll be like, oh yeah, well I haven't tried that before, maybe I'll give it a go, So the difference is that the means are not the ultimate thing we want. It's the skills that we want them to obtain, regardless of podcast, video, or just a, weather forecast, weather anchor kind of interview. Yeah. So I hope that answers the questions.
Let's sneak in one more question here.
It's actually a deep question.
Okay. I like deep, but not the deep learning part. Not the deep learning question. I can't handle that.
No, not that.
Okay.
What's your feeling on using Turnitin's recently released AI identity?
Oh, I got a lot of feeling on that.
I
got a lot of feeling on that. Yeah.
Just using it as a tool to pin academic misconduct on a student.
Okay. I don't. I mean, if I tell you what I personally have done, that's such a small sample, so no. There are articles online where other universities and even secondary schools have tested their articles. Basically, throw it out of the bin. Turn-in doesn't help at all. Even if it says 100% accuracy for catching AI, it's not 100%. 50 will be glad. So 50% is optimistic already. Can it improve? Sure. I mean, I'm sure that it can get better with time. But the idea is, why are we catching them? If we haven't allowed them, why are we catching them? I mean, so what if we catch them using the generative AI? Ultimately, we just tell them to, just credit ChatGPT or credit Bing. That's all you need to do, because you're no longer an offense, right, after that. So it doesn't really matter. So it's just giving credits to that. And no, even there is a university students in the States where he produced like 0 GPT or something, where he claims to be able to accurately check 98% of the AI generated content, but there's a limitation for that, because you have to give his program like a passage of, I think it was 6,000 words or 4,000 words, I forgot that part, exactly as it is. Then they will be able to be able to check it. But, students are not stupid. They can generate something for AI, and, oh, there's no mistake. I put an S at the end, really creating a mistake there so that you will not be able to catch me. Just make it wrong. Not perfect. Imperfect. Yeah, so they can do that. So there's no way. There's no way we can check it for sure. Right? That's just a waste of time. So don't throw turning in AI check away. No, don't use it. Don't trust it.
Yeah, I agree with all that.
Yeah. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
And now we're just in time for lunch, so Conference will be outside directing you to go. And see everyone after lunch.